beautiful hat. I've never let nothing.
The 2000s are gone, and it's been a month since 2010 started. So, in honor of looking back at the old decade, I will give you what I think was the most underrated film of that time. Land of the Blind, made in 2006 and starring Donald Sutherland and Ralph Fiennes. This film is all but forgotten now, considering it had virtually no theatrical release. This is by far one of the most intelligent and political films that I've ever seen in my life. The film is absolutely merciless and without bias in its criticisms of political statuses in our culture. It deals with such themes that George Orwell and Franz Kafka brought out in literature. But not only that, the film takes such notorious world leaders that we've had in our history, people such as Adolf Hitler, Mussolini, Joseph Stalin, Fidel Castro, Pinochet. All these people are brought out onto the screen in metaphorical references and messages brought out to us. But looking at this as a movie, it's also very entertaining to watch. There are three principal main characters here. There is John Thorne, a radical playwright turned terrorist who's being imprisoned for his actions helping the terrorist group that's trying to shut down the government. There is the sadistic and vicious leader of said government. And there is Joe, the narrator and main character of this movie. Joe works for the government as a prison guard, and that's basically how he ends up meeting John Thorne. So while Joe is getting acquainted with Thorne and that side of the political view, there is the President for Life, Maximilian II. And also known as Junior, is about as savage and brutal and bloodthirsty as any cruel dictator has been. He is actually given one of Idi Amin's titles, and he dresses a lot like some of the dictators of our history. And all the while we're given the haunting voice of Joe narrating his story. The real genius behind Ralph Fiennes' casting is that he has heavy-handedness down to a science. He's able to give us this man who has the world on his shoulders, who's trying to figure out whether he really has done everything he could for his country, what it really means to be a patriot, and whether he did the right thing. And even as he's pondering these questions to himself, we're given his story of how he met John Thorne in the middle of his loyalty to Maximilian II, and how he had to choose whether to help Thorne or let him perish in his prison cell. This is a brilliant story, and I haven't even begun to really describe it to you properly. I'm going to leave it up to you to decide to watch this movie. The film's heavy themes and its political background is really open to interpretation, just like life itself. We have to look at this movie and decide what happened, what's real, what's not, who's telling the truth, who's lying, and even then you become absorbed in the soundtrack, story, and cinematography of this wonderful film. Even as it gives us such references to Mao Zedong and the Ayatollah Khomeini, the film also stays within its fictional account and gives us a truly entertaining masterpiece.